I am the director of citizen services for the city of Buffalo. It's just a pleasure being with you. For those, again, who don't know, many of us here who've been on our block chat on a weekly basis, we started our block chat during the pandemic, and we wanted to share information with community people. But we also knew that the information we had was needed in the community, but we also knew it was a two-way street. We wanted to know what folks were thinking about, or how can we help people in the community. We also found out that the resiliency of folks in the community and this power of networking. And so we continued doing a block chat. I want to give a shout out to the board of block clubs who are our partners in doing the block chat. And there are several block clubs all throughout the city of Buffalo. Some would say there's thousands of them, but I would say, maybe a good 400 to 500, which is more than well enough. And they have networked all throughout various parts of the community, volunteers, folks who live in the community, talking about issues of safety, concerns, young people. And so again, I want to shout out Libby Lombardo, who's the president, and the board members. Block chat, a lot of things that are happening this weekend, but one major thing that is happening on a yearly basis, city of Buffalo, and it's good to see now with all of my other city officials and other cities who are celebrating Juneteenth. We've been doing that, and it's been in style and fashion for a while back, and I think it's an important thing for those who share an African heritage, those African Americans, to understand what this day means. And so it is Juneteenth weekend. In Buffalo, we celebrate that with a parade and also with vendors and different type of activities in Martin Luther King Park all throughout, not just the weekend, but it started a few days before that. And so shout out to the local Juneteenth organizers, and what they've been able to do is, it brings to the great mosaic or the fabric of the city of Buffalo. Um, Week before that was Allentown Festival, and all of those different things. And lastly, we can't forget our brothers. For those who are on here who's listening, happy Father's Day, happy pre-Father's Day, and it's an important thing in terms of the male factor and their role within this community, but also within family. So for those who are making things happen, whether you have a biological child or you are mentoring or all of those different things, happy Father's Day to you on Sunday. And so, again, I'm pretty excited about our speaker today. And shout out to Best Self, in terms of the work that they're doing. We're going to be talking a little bit about microaggressions and unconscious bias, which is very important. The climate that we live in today, more specifically, what the anniversary, which happened a few days ago, or what happened on the east side at Tops, and the triggers that may happen. It's important to understand what those definitions are. It's important to understand the meanings of what those things are so that we can kind of digest that and we can have these dialogues, but also we can recognize that amongst ourselves and to others. I think that's very important. So I'm excited about what unconscious bias is. I'm excited, and I do know what we're going to be talking about with the speaker. I can't wait enough. I'm obviously traveling and mobile, but I'm going to be listening in. Again, thank you very much. Happy Juneteenth to everyone. And Nicole, I'm going to pass this off to you, and I'm going to allow you, if you can, to introduce the speaker.
Thank you. Okay, so everyone, what I'm going to do is I'm going to share a couple of announcements that may be pertinent to you guys or anybody else that you may know. And if you guys these announcements, you can feel free to email me and I will share them out. So bear with me while I share my screen and let me know when you guys see it. Okay. So as always, we just want everybody in the City of Good Neighbors to show your support for the victims' families and surrounding community. If you'd like to make a donation, you can do that by emailing helpbuffalo@thepartnership.org or calling the number on screen. For those in need of transportation to the grocery store, there is still the Tops Market shuttle service at the corner of Jefferson Avenue and Riley Street. And then Lyft and Uber are offering free rides for residents in 14208 and 14209. And there are codes to use that are for those rides as well. The community response to the few distribution is still going on. There are different days and different times though. So if you to go to the Resource Council, please call the number on screen to find out what days this is available as well. The Trinidad Neighborhood Association is victims and the lives lost due to this horrific tragedy. So they have the Trinidad Tops victims. Donations are still being accepted, and they will still be distributed out to the survivors and the victims' families of this tragedy. And you can contact screen for more information on how to donate. Stand up if anyone is at risk of eviction due to the inability to pay rent as a result of the pandemic. You can call 211 to learn more about the qualifications that applicants must provide and how that process works. As you can go to standupbuffalo.com for more information. If there's somebody that's having trouble coping or experiencing a mental health crisis that's imminent, you can Buffalo Police Department's behavioral health team. They work in collaboration with Endeavor Health Services and on-site screening, assessment, de-escalation, and diversion for people who may need it at the moment. So if you want to learn more about how this works, you can call the number listed on screen to talk to the behavioral health team or the crisis intervention team. And they're open Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. We are still hosting some cleanup events, so you can schedule your own event. This only runs until June 22nd, though. Request and arrange for a free trash pickup by calling 311, or you can volunteer at an established cleanup event, and you will be assigned to a location to clean up, remove graffiti, or spruce up a garden. You register by calling 311 using the QR code, or you can email rdixon@ny.gov. As well as we do have some more for crime prevention through environmental design trainings coming up. So the next will be June 22nd through June 24th, 6 to 8:30 p.m. and in July as well. So if you want to register, you can contact the Special Project Manager for Crime Prevention of Buffalo, Mr. Ron Dixon, at the email listed on screen, and it will be in the chat. The bulk trash underway. So we are coming up on the University District will be next. So I want to remind everybody to please put their trash out the Sunday before the state for your trash collection. If you would like to volunteer and be part of the Good Neighbors Network, that is a great possibility, and we would have more volunteers join. So we are looking for you. So if you want to find out more about this initiative, you can contact the Save Our Streets coordinator, Mr. Michael Smith, or call 311 to be added to the volunteer network as well. We are also accepting applications on our AmeriCorps program. There are a few requirements to be eligible. There's a 1-year commitment to serving the community. So if you do want to find out more about this, you can contact Malika Lee, and she is our External Affairs Coordinator. The 2022 Kids Summer Reading Challenge is away, and so you have to read 5 or more books, upload those written book summaries before August 31st, and all champion readers will qualify for prizes and receive invitation to attend the awards ceremony hosted on Saturday, October 29th at the Convention Center. So you can register for this on our city website or scan the QR code. Healing by the Water is happening at Project Park this summer. So it's a summer of celebrations. This starts July 7th. It runs through September 29th, 5 to 8. So it's every Thursday and Sunday at the foot of Ferry near Niagara Street. And then, just everyone to join together as they come together in the spirit of healing. And so there will be music, food, markets, and more. So this June 25th, there is an event by Wave Buffalo called Make Buffalo Laugh. So just, something community sponsored by various people in the community at the Franklin Meriwether Library. And there's also a Kids Day from 12 to 3. Concert runs from 3 to 4, and the comedy show from 6. If you want to start a block club, you can contact the Erie County, the City of Buffalo and Erie County Board of Clubs. They have an email, phone, Facebook, and Instagram, and they are responsive on all platforms. And they assist you in either starting up a block club or reactivating your block club. There's also a community meeting on June 23rd, 6 p.m. Community Center, and there are guest speakers and updates from the Division of Citizen Services and clubs, and a special retirement celebration for Miss Ada Hopkins Clemens for 12 years of service to the Board of Block Clubs and as the current secretary. So we look forward to going out to this event. There's a free summer camp by Say Yes. Different activities include academic support, enrichment, physical activity, emotional supports, visual and performing arts, and more. Breakfast and lunch provided. There is student eligibility that has to be met, and you can register 3 ways, and there are a number of different sites hosting this summer camp. Say Yes is also looking for teachers and support staff to this summer camp, so if that's something that interests you, you can go to sayyesbuffalo.org to find out information. Community Music School is also hosting a summer of camps. There are for various ages, and you can call for more information and pricing, or you can visit communitymusicbuffalo.org. Vendors have the opportunity to participate in taking it to the streets. If you are interested in this, you can contact Anita Williams. She's the founder of this event. And so this runs August 20th and 21st at Martin Junior King Park as well. So we do want to remember when COVID is still out here and it is on the rise again. So we're just encouraging to use their COVID-19 self-testing or testing sites. And there's all information that you can find on COVID at our city website, COVID19buffalony.gov. And it lists vaccination locations and or testing locations as well. And if you're with COVID or any, need any emotional support, you can use the Buffalo Urban Project Hope line. It is emotional support helpline. It runs Monday through Saturday, 8 a.m. and p.m. Or you can email projecthope@buffalourbanleague.org, and it is free and confidential. And if you do not follow us on social media, please do. Our Facebook page. You can type in at Buffalo Citizen Services to find us. Our Instagram, Buffalo 311, and we do have a secondary Facebook page, our 311 call and response center page is at Buffalo 311. And if you do not follow the mayor, please follow him for more updates as well on Facebook at Mayor Byron Brown and on Instagram at Mayor Byron Brown 716. And at this time, I'm going to introduce my colleague, Mr. Michael Smith. He's our Save Our Streets to just give you a little update about clean sweep season.
Thank you, Nicole. As she mentioned, I am the Clean Sweep Coordinator, and I've had the honor of working with a collaboration of city government, community organizations, and volunteers. And what the program is we go door to door in communities, and we offer resources and referrals. We also do cleanups to improve the quality of life. Last week, or actually this week on Wednesday, we just concluded a phenomenal sweep in the Ellicott district surrounding the Tops that was unfortunately the target of a terrorist attack. We took care of the 256 properties between Jefferson and Humboldt on Riley and Landon Street. We've engaged with over 50 community members directly, taking care of any issues that they identified, and all of the residential homes that we did that the residents were not there to receive us. We left our information and also cleaned up, the vacant lots, took care of some private properties as well. Next week, we are remaining in the Ellicott district as we are focusing on that community, and we are going to be canvassing a total of 307 properties, 154 of which are residential. We have a great team of partners and city staff and volunteers, and I can't say enough of their dedication to serving the communities of Buffalo. And we're going to continue going strong with the Clean Sweep Initiative. For those of you who are, perhaps interested in participating, please, as Nicole mentioned, reach out to me, and we'll get you on the list. Make sure you have some literature and 2 members of your team who can facilitate getting that resources and explaining your program to the residents. And I, look forward to continuing this great season. And with that, I'll pass it back to you, Nicole. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So I'm going to bring up our speaker. She is a wonderful survivor advocate for Best Self, eligible in this area and highly recommended. Miss Tahirah Harbin. I hope I'm saying your name right. So you are free to come up now and talk a little bit about your specialty area. So I know microaggressions and biases.
Yes, thank y'all so much for having me this afternoon. My name is Tahirah Harbin. I am currently working as a survivor advocate for Best Self Behavioral Health, but I'm also a mother, a speaker, a trainer, a writer, an entrepreneur, a DEI practitioner, a creative, and a blurred, which is a Black nerd. Um, my ultimate mission in my life, my personal mission, is to advocate and amplify the voices of Black folks, specifically Black women, and that includes trans women, non-binary, and femmes. And then just my personal vision for myself is to be authentically, excessively, and unapologetically Black. And so, having said all that, I kind of want to move into why I was here today, but I just wanted to make sure I said all that as well. So I've been employed at BestSelf for the past almost 5 years. And in the past 2 years, our agency has made a lot of efforts towards racial equity and inclusion and educating the masses on what that is. They developed a racial equity and inclusion 101 training that is still available for new employees, but it was rolled out for all employees across the agency to take. And so, in those past 2 years, with the efforts that were made, there were also committees that were formed. Um, I personally was a part of the policy and procedure committee where we went through our current policies and procedures and looked at it from a racial, equitable, and inclusive lens and changed up things where they needed to be changed. And I was also a part of the book and movie club where we would read a book or watch a movie. And then we would get together to kind of talk about the themes of that book or that movie that had something to do with it could be racial or it could just be someone from an underrepresented community. And we would read about those experiences and get together and kind of talk about that and have those courageous conversations as a group. Um, so in becoming more involved in those efforts, I had the fortune of being part of the START team, which was formed last year in response to bringing more racial, equitable, and inclusive trainings to the light and for people to take and become educated on. So the START team stands for the Specialty Training and Review Team, where we would review and we would create trainings in order to put forth into the agency. The training that I created was about workplace microaggressions. As someone who is a Black woman, identifies as a Black woman, and who has been in this social work field for the past 14 years, I, of course, have dealt with workplace microaggressions. I deal with microaggressions in my everyday life anyway, but in the workplace, it's something very different. And microaggressions are commonplace and sometimes brief occurrences that happen over time. I've heard the analogy used that it's like having a million little paper cuts. They may be small, but the impact is definitely there. But they're commonplace. They happen over the course of time. They happen across anywhere. They can happen to kids in school. They can happen in the grocery store, or if you're going to the mall, anywhere you are publicly. And most often, to a lot of people, they occur at work. Um, and I have notes and I don't want to get too far off. Yes, so it could be a statement, an action, or incident, whether it's intentional or not intentional, um, that is made against someone from an underrepresented community. So that could be based on race, that could be based on sexual preference, that can be based on gender identity, that can be based on disability. So microaggressions kind of cover all of that. And it communicates a hostile and negative attitude based on stereotypes or those unconscious biases that someone may have towards someone from an underrepresented community who experiences microaggressions more often than anyone else. And it leaves the person at the receiving end feeling powerless, feeling confused, feeling exhausted, and honestly, feeling a little anxious too. I've experienced microaggressions that had me feeling very anxious about continuing. So, with being a part of the START team and with being able to develop trainings, I, of course, had a passion to put together a training that centered around what workplace microaggressions are, and specifically what workplace racial microaggressions are happening. So, in my training, I cover, if you're the target of a microaggression, I cover, you know, how you can respond and some of the tools and the frameworks you can use to respond to receiving a microaggression. Um, I cover what to do if you're the perpetrator of the microaggression and someone calls you out or calls you in about your behaviors. I also cover what it means to be a true ally, or even better, what it means to be an accomplice. And then also, I cover the difference between intent and impact, because we hear that a lot. Oh, it wasn't my intention, and that's fine. But you got to think about how it landed, how it impacted the person who received your intention, whether it wasn't ill or whether it was. Um, and a lot of this was almost a passion project for me, because a lot of it came out of my need to bring these things to light. A lot of people don't realize what they are. They happen so often and they can be so insidious that a lot of people write them off. I've had microaggressions happen to me where, for instance, I was working at one place, and whenever I would go pick up my paycheck, the accountant would call me every other Black woman's name that worked within that organization. And after a while, for him, it became a running joke. But for me, it was very jarring, and it was very unfortunate because he knew my name, but he thought it was funny to call me Dashia, Tashika, Rashida, any other name but my name. And it was always calling me by other Black women who worked in the agency. And at that time, I wasn't as vocal as I am now. I kind of internalized that, but I felt bad about that. It really did upset me. It really did hurt me. It really did, you know, make me feel very powerless. Um, Another example is I had one of a member of leadership at an organization, a white woman. I come in the room and she calls me sister or sister, and it just because that is something that's a boundary for me. And so I didn't know how to take it. I didn't know if I should address it right here in the moment. Should I wait? Should I pull her to the side? Should I let it go? But then there's a power dynamic because she's in leadership and I'm not in leadership. And I literally had to take a walk after that meeting to really figure out, how am I going to address this? I need to address it because I don't want it to continue. And then I don't want it to be a thing where we go into another meeting where there's more people and this is how she continues to refer to me. And so ultimately, after processing with myself and processing with some trusted friends, I was able to kind of put together an email and let her know, listen, you called me sister. I would appreciate it if you would call me by my name and only by name. And, what was good and what I really appreciated is that there wasn't any, oh, that wasn't my intent. There wasn't any pushback. Oh, I call everybody. It was, I apologize. Thank you for bringing this to my attention. You know, and going forward from there. And that's how it should be. Um, of course, I'm someone who has, locked hair, and it's one of the things I do mention in my training is where I talk about the Crown Act. I talk about the fact that, as Black people, we've had to assimilate when it comes to how we dress, how we speak, and even our hair. Our hair was looked at for so long as unprofessional, and so I've received microaggressions when it comes to my hair, whether it be the texture or how it looks, or even I have a little bit of color. And so that's something that I've dealt with and that I've had to combat as well. And, going back to my previous example of being confused or mixed up, or, calling me by other people's names, I've had that unfortunately happen on more than one occasion where a colleague will confuse me for that. There's only like two of us in this department, but having a colleague confuse me for the other Black person who happens to work in this department. And so those are things that can leave the person on the receiving end just feeling very low, just feeling very upset, feeling like I don't even want to be here. This is what I got to deal with every day. Um, and so I thought it was important to bring those concerns to light, to have conversations about it, and then to teach people not only how to manage that when it happens to them, but also to the people who are shelling out the microaggressions. You know, if you get called in, this is what needs to happen. Given the example earlier of my lady in leadership, the way she handled that was the way that it should have been handled. I'm sorry, it won't happen again. Thank you for bringing it to my attention. um, so also, in doing that training, I developed a deeper passion for racial equity, diversity, and inclusion. And I went about obtaining my workplace diversity and inclusion certification so that I could um, get deeper into diversity, equity, and inclusion, and being a practitioner and calling things out as they happen. It's not always easy. A lot of people don't want to receive that, but it's important that we do kind of take action and to say, hey, you said this and this isn't okay. Or, hey, you may not have meant it this way, but this is how it affected me. Or, hey, this joke that you made about this is not funny, and these are the reasons why. We need to be empowered to speak up in that way and to interrupt those kind of things from happening. Um, I think it's very important to call truth to power, and even if that means kind of challenging the status quo, that's not always easy to do either. But it's absolutely necessary, especially if we want to make real change, if we want to combat the powers that be, if we want there to be a real understanding. So those things are very important. And so a lot of what I am intending to do and wanting to do, and even what I've been doing within working with young people and their families for all these years, is advocacy. I think a lot of people don't know or don't understand, or might be a little scared of using their voices. Um, I know I had gone through different things in the workplace, and challenging leadership and challenging things to change, and you may have some people who are not ready, and that's okay. All you can do is be yourself, and ultimately they can look at your example and they may want to start speaking up. Because my whole thing is, if we're not speaking up, if we're not taking what's happening to us and saying, this isn't okay, and I want to do something about it, and then we just move on, then that next person is coming in and they're going to be subjected to the same thing. And so that's why I feel like it's important to speak up on these issues to save the next person from experiencing what happened to you. I've gone through things that are absolutely um really bad, and that's an understatement, just really bad. And I my whole thing is I couldn't be quiet about it, and I didn't want anyone else to experience or feel the way that I felt after overcoming some of the prior situations I had been in. So that's why I feel like it's important for there to be advocacy, for there to be mentorship within your organization, with newer people who are coming on, because when there's advocacy, not only are you supporting that person and you're supporting their potential, but that person can be retained. You have a lot of places that struggle with, keeping their workers because of burnout, because they feel like they're not being heard, because of microaggressions. Um, and so when you look at things from a different angle, when you start bringing in people and you are invested in them, you're invested in their success, you are advocating for them, you are encouraging them to speak up for themselves and to advocate for what they deserve, you're building leaders, essentially. And so that's ultimately what I want to do. Of course, I've already, said that as my mission, but also, not just in my work, but also with my colleagues, the people I work with, the young women that I mentor, always pushing them to kind of challenge things, to speak up for themselves, to not allow microaggressions to build up, because it can build up. Like I said, for so many years, I kind of was silent about these issues. I wouldn't say anything. I would hear the wildest things spoken by, my colleagues and my leadership, and not say anything because, I'm gonna put my head down. I don't want to get in trouble. I don't want to make waves, but this is really affecting me. This is really upsetting me. Why would they say this? When it's like, no, if you challenge it, then there's a potential for it to change. And I think, if anything, not only the past month's events, but just for as long as there's been life on Earth, there's change that's needed.
Very
And
true.
so
Very true.
I just want to be a part of that in any little way that I can. And so with this training and being able to bring this to the masses and bring attention to this, that's my little way of trying to make any little change I can. Thank you.
I had a quick, no, 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 thank you. I had a couple of quick questions, and thank you for the
Sure.
presentation, and thank you for that. I think we often, and thank you for your courage, because not only did you do a presentation, you shared your story, and I think um, being a professional or doing that what we're doing, we think that sometimes it's an easy thing, and the challenges that we have to do the work that we have for others often are unmet because we're so focused on other people. And as you said, sometimes we're just like, am I dealing with it? I'm not, yeah, and sometimes I say, is it me? Am I crazy? What's going on? Whatever. And I think what you did is just put some definition to that. So I do appreciate that. Um, you talked about the role that individually we play and how it affects, but then you also talked about other folk, whether it be allies or even say accomplices or those things. And I know we have those folks here who say, how can I help? How can I help? And sometimes you can help, but sometimes you can be like, whoa, step back. Let me feel this through. So can you talk a little bit about that? Having
Absolutely.
the opportunity to digest. And so just because somebody said they want to help That doesn't mean that they gotta be there, right? You know?
Mhm. Absolutely. Thank you for asking that question and bringing that up. I do cover that where I talk about the allyship piece, because the thing is with allyship, it's not a self-appointed title, right? There's a young woman I follow on TikTok. Her name is Portia.Noir, and I always want to give her credit because that's who I heard that from. And it was like a wake-up call. I'm like, yes, it's not a self-appointed title. It is something that you are, um, based on the community that you want to help. If we call you that, then, or if we recognize this person is really here for us, this person is really, but at the same time, sometimes we may not want that help. And that may be a hard pill to swallow sometimes, but sometimes you may need to take a step back and then just be in the wings if we're like, okay, can you help us with this? Also, when I talk about being an accomplice, that means kind of, using your power and your privilege to kind of tear down the systems from within. And one of the examples I use is Fred Hampton and the Rainbow Coalition when it comes to, accomplice, like getting your hands dirty with us. I also talk about performative and conditional allyship and how that's not what anyone needs, is someone who's just there for a look, or someone who is there until you make them mad and then they're like, well, forget you. Because I've had, unfortunately, conditional allyship where, what can we do to be allies? And then I let you know what's happening and what you can do to support me. And then because I'm not delivering it in the way that you want, you're taking your support away from me. Um, oh, there was also another point I wanted to touch on. Oh, please let the thought come back to me. Oh,
But I also, as that thought comes back to you, I know Nicole said she had a question or two, and we're gonna open
okay,
it up to.
sure.
I had put it in the chat box. So basically, it was just, do biases lead to the microaggressions? And then what was the difference between a joke or a microaggression? Does it depend on how the recipient takes it?
Ooh, okay. So yes, the bias does lead to the microaggression because unfortunately, this society that we live in and the things that we've been conditioned in has created our mindset for how we feel, and we all have unconscious bias, right? So it's created the environment for how we may look at each other. And especially because we are so segregated within this city. So some people may think, oh, this about, like, I live in the 14215 area. So people may have their thoughts about people that live in the 14215 based on that. Or I may have my thoughts about people that live in Tonawanda, so we all have that unconscious bias. Microaggressions, though, are more often felt by those who are in the intersection of those underrepresented communities. So even with the unconscious bias, Black, Indigenous, other people of color, non-binary folks, um, you know, um, LGBTQIA, like those folks disabled will feel it more often. I don't know if I answered your question. I feel like there was a second part to it.
I think you did. I think it's just kind of the question a lot of people, or not a lot of people, but some people have asked it for, is like, if I make it as a joke,
Okay.
how come it's a microaggression? You know what I mean? Like, I don't really mean it, but who decides it's a microaggression? Is it the recipient, like the person who it's directed towards, or should I be like me because this is how I intended it?
The person who's receiving it can determine if it's a microaggression, because the thing is, especially if it's a joke about race or anything else, you may want to ask yourself, is this worth even saying? There's a wonderful show that I encourage you all to look up. It's on YouTube. and it's called The Unwritten Rules. And it's about a young Black professional navigating through, and I use one of the episodes in my training, navigating through working in a predominantly white workplace. And there's an episode, I want to say in season 3, there's only 3 seasons. There's an episode in season 3 where she's with some of her colleagues, and one of the colleagues makes a joke, that has to do with race, and everybody's laughing, and she's like, I don't think it's funny. And they're like, oh, Racy, it's not a big deal, it's not. But she's telling you, as a person who is part of that community that you made the joke about, that it's not funny. And then, like, in that episode, they even show the reverse. If she were to do that, how would that make the girl who made the joke feel? So anyone who is, thinking, oh, I'm just making a joke, you got to really ask yourself, is this something that, especially if you're doing it in the presence of a person who is a part of that joke, like, if whether it be their racial background or anything else, but even still, even if they're not in the room, and you're making that amongst your own people, it's just, you got to ask yourself, is this really necessary or worth me even saying? Because not all jokes are, it's only and this is something else I talk about, it's only a joke if it's funny, right? And if it's not being received well, and especially if it's about or towards a person of a underrepresented community, 9 times out of 10 you're going to want to just tuck that joke away and not even say it. I saw someone's hand was raised. I hope I answered your question.
Somebody is, but I'm going to say this. I want to repeat that again. It's not a joke if it's not. Again, one more time about a joke and it's not being funny.
If it's not a joke if it's not funny. Yes.
And it's so simple, but if we use that and other things as a barometer, we get it. Was somebody's hand up? I'm sorry.
Yes.
Yeah, my hand was up. It's Linda. Hi, thank you for this presentation today. It's really timing is really, they say timing is everything. This was really great timing, and I'm feeling, I have these feelings inside of me that are kind of stirring around from this subject that we're talking about, and I feel a little hypersensitive at being white right now. It's like. And I'm someone who's in the community. I'm on the board of block clubs. I joined the board of block clubs. I wanted to get to know the East Side better and build bridges and all that kind of thing. And I don't know where this fits into your conversation, but I know that as difficult it must be to walk out of the house with black skin every day. I don't know what that feels like or what that must be like, but from what I've been told and what my friends, that it's you have to think twice before you walk out, and you think you're sending your kids out. And I can't imagine having to live like that, and it really makes me ill inside. I can hide my being a Jew behind my white skin, and a lot of people hate us too, so it's like, I don't know where humanity is going these days, and I'm really confused about where my place is and wanting to help and be there for the community. I've it's hard. It's a very difficult time. And I had a really embarrassing situation at the PT a couple of weeks ago. There was a young black woman who was training, and I had chatted with her. I said, "Oh, I could, you've got a lot to learn," and blah blah blah. And she said, "Yeah." So the next week I came back, and she was sitting behind the desk ready to go. And I said, "Well, look at you. You moved up fast." And she said, "What are you talking about?" And it was the wrong person. If I could have fallen into the floor in a hole, I would have loved to. And I said, "Oh, I'm so sorry." And what could I say? And it's just like you said with your situation where your co-worker called you by the wrong name, and it was an identity misunderstanding, and I still feel bad about it. It happened weeks ago, but you reminded me of it when you told your story. And sometimes things happen, and it was out of innocence and whatever. But I just wanted to say that it's a very uncomfortable time. Juneteenth is coming up and I want to go and support it. And I don't know if I'm going to be welcomed. I mean, I just don't know. And I really feel like Buffalo needs to start going. We're so segregated that we need to be going to each other's festivals. You know, I think that's a good place to start. So I don't know. What do you think about all that?
Ooh,
Yeah.
you said a lot. Hold on. Thank you, first of all, for saying that. It is uncomfortable. These conversations are uncomfortable and they have to be. You know, I just think about my lived experience as a Black person, but also just the history and the ancestry. We've always been uncomfortable, you know? So you got to get uncomfortable with being uncomfortable, because when you're uncomfortable, that means you got to move. That means you got to change something. That means you got to, you know what I mean? And it sounds like you're really trying to. And now, as far as now with your situation, I think that really was an honest mistake. Um, but yeah, maybe next time, just like before you even say hi, just let me just look at this person a little bit closer and make sure. And now as far as, and this is just my feelings, when it comes to Juneteenth. Whew, I don't know if y'all ready for this. Okay, this is just my feelings when it comes to Juneteenth. And I know that as Black people, we are not a monolith. Everybody thinks differently. This is Tahirah Harbin. This is how I feel. Juneteenth is a celebration that Black folk have been celebrating for years upon years, just doing our own thing, celebrating us. Juneteenth, and then when you think about, oh, you know, attending and everything like that, you got to think of what it is. Juneteenth, June 19th, 1865, 2 years after the Emancipation Proclamation. That means there were enslaved folks, enslaved Black folks still in this country who were supposed to be free 2 years ago, and they weren't. They were still enslaved. And this is to celebrate. That was the actual day that everybody was free. um, and so that's a celebration of our enslaved ancestors being freed from those who enslaved us. So, you know, I wouldn't say you wouldn't necessarily be welcomed, because it is a celebration. However, this is something that, like I said, I have mixed feelings when it comes to Juneteenth being a national holiday, quite honestly. Like, these corporations have already tried it, and they're already trying to capitalize off of us. And the thing is like, Juneteenth being a national holiday, that's all well and good, but we asked for reparations. We asked for an anti-lynching bill. We asked for, like, that's what we really want. But so like I said, these are just my feelings. That's my disclaimer. Um, you know,
I
I
appreciate it.
personally,
Thank you.
I just I want to celebrate with my folk. I'm not, you know, necessarily, oh, white people are here. I just want to celebrate with my people. This is our freedom. This is our freedom day. This is a time for us to be together, because we've been separated for so long, not just physically, but separated um by, you know, colorism and everything else. And this person's gay, but this person's light skinned, and this person. So no, this is for us to all come together. um you know, I don't think you would be unwelcome. I just know my focus is going to be on celebrating with my brethren. So I hope that answers your question. And once again, you know,
It does.
I
Thank
thank
you.
you for
Mhm.
you know, kind of speaking on that, because like I said, you're gonna be uncomfortable, but in that discomfort, I encourage you to be like, okay, I'm uncomfortable, and think about it in terms of, if you're sitting in a chair that's uncomfortable, okay, I'm uncomfortable. I don't like this chair. It's digging in my butt. I
You go.
don't like it. You get up and change. You get up and change chairs, you know. So I hope that discomfort moves you into change, and you know, and there are opportunities to be a part of that change. And I thought about the ally thing. Okay. So one of the things, when I was going through some different things um on a team that I was in, I would have a lot of people, I would speak up about my experience as a Black person. This is what I've experienced. This is what happens. This is my reality. This is not okay, blah, blah, blah. And crickets. But then after the fact, I would get these very kind emails and I would get people talk, oh, Tahirah, I really loved what you said. Cool. Like, but why didn't you say that when I was in the meeting and I was feeling like I was out on the island by myself? So, another part of allyship is just kind of, and not necessarily saying we need you to speak for us or over us, but just a vote of support. Like, yes, I see what you're saying, or, okay, I support that. Just something like that, because it makes us feel less alone. And when you come afterward to be like, that was really great, cool, but I needed your support then, where I'm not looking like I'm just the quote unquote, because I've been called this, the angry Black woman for simply speaking up about things that I don't like.
Let me add here. I know we just have a few minutes, and Linda's gonna be representing the Board of Block Clubs. But thank you for that. I too, being of ancestry of African descent and Latino descent, and so my diaspora is within the spectrum. And you mentioned something that struck a chord. So the meaning of Juneteenth, or even what we do in terms of holidays, not just with Juneteenth, but how folks will commercialize or any type of holidays. Like I want to say, let's go back to this sense of uncomfortableness, right? If we are to say that we are transparent, and we should be, or we're doing that, then speak the truth, because this country, as we can say, as good or great as it is, has been messy. It's not always been whatever. So the fruits of who we are and what we enjoy and what we say freedoms are has come with some prices, right? And I don't know if we do enough to acknowledge that, to talk about that, because to talk about that is to make people feel uncomfortable, right? But we still need to do that. That doesn't mean that, the sins of people who were here 200, 300 years, whatever. It means to say that this occurred, right? And as a result, some of these things happen. Redlining, all of these other different people made some very conscious decisions, right? And okay, you weren't there, but because of those decisions, some folks are benefiting more so than others, right? And so, what can we do for some remedy? What can we do to look at that? And for far too long, as a country or as a people, as a whatever, our heads have been in the sand. And I'm going to safely say, sometimes a lot of people, heads have been in the sand. And don't got to be ideology. Can be. It don't have to be skin color, right? So I think this conversation is timely. I want to say thank you very much. Um, we were purposeful about this conversation, as purposeful as it is when we were dealing with COVID. We brought speakers in. This is when we're thinking about generational trauma. When we think about that, we have to give voice to those, to find out how we feel and check it in, and what those remedies are. And it's okay to say we don't have the remedies, but it's important to say that I have some definitions for you, right? And let me give you some vocabulary to it. And I'm not necessarily talking about words, right? And so thank you very much, Linda. Thank you, for you being who you are. So if you want to hang out at Juneteenth, you see me, I'm going to be walking, and so some people use holidays as celebrations, but even the Juneteenth people don't know that days before that, there are talks, there's conversations, there are that, and, people want to come to the celebration and the parade, love it, but and there are some families who will talk about that, within self, and I think that's an important thing. So thank you very much, Sister Harbin. I appreciate you, and let this
Thank
not be the
you.
last time that we see you. I know you're in contact with our staff. Hope to make some more connections with you with that too. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. I look forward to being back. I just want to say one more thing. And this is something I say in my training as well. Now, when it comes to being educated about these things, it is not the job of that underrepresented community to educate anybody. Like, like I got my books, I purposely had my bookshelf behind me. There are books, there are articles, there are think pieces, there are TED Talks. There are so many things on so many subjects where you can learn about these things and then understand how you need to move. So thank
Great.
you.
Thank you very much. And so a lot of times we will let you, the audience, leave with a few minutes. We're going to actually take a few minutes. I'm going to let Linda speak this for a few minutes about the happenings of the Board of Block Clubs. She spoke earlier. She's one of the vice presidents. Linda, hey.
Hi. Tahirah is a beautiful, beautiful presentation today. Thank you very much. And it's always so great to see everybody's faces here. I just wanted to, I know Nicole mentioned it earlier, but I just want to reiterate that this Thursday, we have our community block club meeting at 6 p.m. That's a new time. We usually start at 6:30, but now we're starting at 6 because we're going to do our executive board meetings by Zoom and not take up that time before the community meeting. And it's going to be at the Northwest Community Center. That's 155 Lawn Avenue. And we're also celebrating the retirement of Ada. I don't know if you know Miss Ada, but she has been our recording secretary for like 24 years, and she's stepping down from that position. And we're having a little celebration for her. So I hope that you'll come out to the meeting, and we have a guest speaker, we have a party. It's going to be a real nice time. I hope to see you. Thank
Hey,
you.
thank you very much. I
Okay.
do want to thank you.
Happy Juneteenth.
Hey, thank you very much, Linda. I forgot to say this. My friends from Push Buffalo, there's New York's Disadvantaged Communities Criteria for Educational Session is happening at the Buffalo Science Museum, June 21st at 6 p.m. We'll push that out. It's a criteria for a grant, and so we'll make sure that folks will go get that out. And New York acts on climate change, and so that's an important topic as we are moving in that respect too. So listen, have a happy Juneteenth, happy Father's Day to those who play the role, who are in that role. And we will see you next Friday. Take care, guys.
Everyone, thank you. Enjoy the weekend. It's going to be
Have a
beautiful.
great weekend, everyone.
Thanks. Bye.
Have a good weekend. Good to see you guys.